we'll go through what's sort of been happening, and even why Bitcoin has sort of held its current level as well. Some other tokens that I'm going to have a look at is I want to have a look at NEAR, and also Solana. If there is anything that you guys want me to look at specifically, just chuck it up in the chat, or you can jump in voice. That's fine as well. And yeah, we'll be recording this for people to look at later. I've got a list of requests from Baldrick already. So we've got Sweat, Nia, MATIC, Dot, and Jude. Yeah, no worries. We can go through them. So just jumping over into the charts here. The first one I want to take a look at, because that's probably the main reason why we haven't seen a larger sell-off in fucking flog. That's the main reason why we haven't seen a sell-off in Bitcoin is we've seen some strength come into the New York markets, or into the US markets. It's still they're still just running along, making new highs every couple of days or so. You get a sense that maybe things are rolling over, and then it just goes off and makes a new high. Turn some of these off so we can see the charts a bit more clearly. It could be starting to round out a little bit here. I have said that a few times on some of these run ups. Like I think it was back here, I'd mentioned it as well, and then it pushed on up. But now we're starting to really get a bit more clumpy, I suppose. We still can push up maybe to 5,200, 5,250, something like that. But at some point, this is going to roll over. Yeah, we can see back here it was a lot more freer in going up, and now we're starting to slow down a bit, starting to come into resistance. We've got some volume coming in about three trading days ago. I think that could have been Friday even last week. Yeah, that was Friday. We're getting volume coming in on the sell side. Today's low volume going up, so the volume on the buy side is starting to drop off a little bit. So I think, yeah, this is starting to look like it's going to start coming around, which will play into Bitcoin. And this chart, I'm warning you, is going to look pretty messy, but I'm a messy person, so that's okay. So this is just on the 4-hour time frame here. I've left up some fibs and stuff. We'll get rid of that one. So where I've got this fib here, that was just when I was doing a little bit of projecting. The assumption was that price is going to come down, tap this level, and then I've got this fib which is projected off this level for where it's going to bounce to. So at the moment, we can probably delete that one. We could even draw one off the current price action that we've got. So that would, based on that, if we're to continue this upward movement, which you'd probably go with, yeah, we're going to maybe see a little bit more upside potentially. I'd be looking at a sort of not going past this golden pocket around 66.5. Well, I wonder what it looks like on the hourly. Yeah, I still think that we could maybe get up to this 66.5 before it starts coming down. I mean, when I posted up the 3 different scenarios yesterday, the first scenario was basically touching around this level at 61.5. Got to 62.3. That's pretty close. That's close enough to me. This isn't a hard or fast level. This one here, it's a thereabouts level. So perhaps this drawing that I've got maybe moves up and goes something like that, potentially. Ultimately, I do think we're going to come back down into this range at some point, whether it's tapping this level here and bouncing up, or falling into the deeper range and doing a bit of trading in here. I'd say that that's more likely. It doesn't have to happen, but I think that that's more likely. Reason being is, if I'll go back out to the 4 hour to a bit better. Right, so the reason why I think we're going to come down to this level at least is we've got this massive wick from the start of March. Came down to 59K on Bybit. I think it was a little bit higher on some other exchanges. There's going to be an absolute shit ton of longs that have their stop losses in this zone beneath it. So that's part of the reason why I think we're going to be coming down, just to stop out those longs, continue up, or we're going to start trading in here. The reason why I think we could trade in there is we haven't formed any structure between that 52.5 and the 61 61 and a half level. There's no structure. It was basically just straight up. And when you go back through the charts for Bitcoin, we'll go right back. We can see that pretty much every range has been getting traded in. So this is throughout the bear market. When it came down, it had these big drops. Didn't do any trading there. Big drops. Didn't do any trading there. But then we got it on the way up. So this zone here between 18.5 and probably 17.5 is one of the few zones that didn't get much trading in. But that's only a $1,000 level. When we're getting these big runs, we can see in this big run up, it did some trading there. And then we did some trading here, goes up, did some trading, fell back down to the previous range highs to do some trading in this zone that it just pushed straight through. When it pushed up here, it traded above these highs, did some trading. And then when it pushed up through here, it didn't come down and test the highs, but it did get somewhat close before it started taking right off. Then we get over to this range here. We pushed up, traded sideways, dropped down, took the liquidity from this zone here that was untouched before it took off again. We pretty much have experienced that the entire market, and this zone, and it's starting to look a little ordinary now, but this zone here is untouched, and that is the reason why. That's the main reason why I think we're going to come back down and do a little bit of trading within that range before we take off to new highs again. I'm not bearish, definitely not bearish. I do think that we're going to have some sort of correction, further correction into this zone, because it has been, when we look at it on a weekly chart, and you're going to just have to ignore the fibs because it does make it look a bit messy, but we've experienced on a weekly chart more or less up with a couple breathers since we made the 24K low. It's just been going straight up. This is the first time we're actually starting to get a bit of a significant pullback coming in the market. But when you look at where we've come from, it's really not a big pullback. The last pullback that we experienced was when the ETF was approved back in the second week of January, when we went up to 48.5K, pulled back down, and I think it wicked down to about 38K before it took off again. So we've experienced very little pullbacks, massive candles, big volume coming in, and now we broke all-time highs, and now we're starting to see that pullback now. I don't think it's going to be over within a week or two. I don't think it's going to last months on end, maybe another couple of weeks perhaps. So I think that it's going to be a small window of opportunity before we do really start taking off again. So I'm sort of treating this moment as almost like the last moment to be bagging up the alts that I want, that haven't already run crazy numbers like Solana. And yeah, that's where I sort of sit with Bitcoin at the moment. So we will jump. We'll change it up a little bit. We might jump into NIA. So NIA has had a really good run the past sort of this month. We started the month down at $3.80, and we got as high as $9. Nearly about a 2.5x, 2x, with at least a 2x within 3 weeks, 2 weeks sort of thing, which is massive. It's massive. Um, Especially it's not a shit coin or anything like that. It's got a significant market cap. Would have been about 4 billion market cap back here, and now it got up to 9 billion market cap. Now we're down trading at about $6.70. I think part of this would have been with the news of the Nvidia conference that was coming up or just passed. People buying up in hopes that it's going to start taking off with some sort of announcement where maybe it's a partnership, maybe it's around the tech, whatever it might be. In any case, I think that some sort of news announcement that comes out about NIA it's good news. It's great. It would be It's going to put NIA in a good position moving forward. It's going to add to its utility, but it's already had its run up. I was quite skeptical, as you guys know how I am with news events, that this was then going to push NIA in an instant because of an announcement up to 13, $20, whatever. It doesn't really matter the actual figure, because we already had this big run. It already did over a 2x leading into it, without really pulling back significantly. It did have little pullbacks along the way, but nothing significant, particularly compared to what we're starting to see now. And this is sort of in line with what we have been seeing with news events and announcements throughout the crypto world over at least the last 12 months. We saw it with XRP. We saw it with the ETF approval for Bitcoin. It did go up after the fact because it is good news, but the event itself was a solar news event. So yeah, with NIA, I think it's coming back down. It's going back to following Bitcoin a bit more. Although when Bitcoin goes down, it's been going down a bit harder. It can do that because it has had a massive run up, so it's got a bit more, I guess, ammo in its back pocket to say, yeah, look, Bitcoin dropped 5%, I can drop 10% because I've already done it over a 2x in the last 3 weeks. Where can it come down to? So that sort of depends on where Bitcoin sort of falls. I think if Bitcoin comes down into that 52 to 61K range, we're likely to see NIA come down to $5. That would be my initial target for sure. Getting beyond that, I'd start to struggle getting beyond that. I mean, you can draw up fibs from like the all-time low up to the high, and so that chucks it in at about $4. Look, $5, $4. It's really it can slice straight through that. I'd say this $5 zone is probably a good area. We've got the tops over here. That should be getting that should act as support. Broke through it over here, so coming down to get a retest before taking off again on its way to $50 would be nice. Just want to make sure I'm not on logarithmic. So I probably wouldn't tend to really go off this fib from the low right up to the high. this fib that here that comes in at the tops is from the last correction down to $2.40 up to the current range high. So that's definitely a level that I'd be keen to see if we get there, how it reacts. We can jump into Solana now. The Solana has been a beast, really. It's been tearing away. It is starting to get a little bit overcooked now. Don't get me wrong. Ended up getting rejected off the 786. It was looking like it could push through, but the daily close was well below. So got rejected on daily closes. Had 2 attempts, didn't close either day above it. So now we're going to see some testing to the downside. Even though we have seen Solana move independently from Bitcoin, when Bitcoin started selling off, it really started to dive. But very similar to NIA, it's had a absolute monster run up from basically from the graveyard. Really, it was trading at $20 back in October, and so that's a 10x in 5 months, 5.5 months, something like that, which is crazy. So it's got heaps of room to pull back, realistically, and it should be pulling back. We need it to pull back. Even just in the last month, it's gone from $100 up to $200. It's done a 2x after doing a 5x. That would be a 5x from October to Feb, and then it's done a 2x. So it's been crazy, the run that it's had. So to see a nice big pullback is good. We've got this trend line here that's been acting relatively well. I'd say worst case scenario for Solana, it comes back down to potentially testing maybe this top here, $135, maybe in a couple of weeks' time at April. Comes back down to test the trend line, bounces back up again. In any case, I think if you're holding Solana, you're in a good position at the moment. But the question that I want to ask is how much upside is there still left for Solana? The market cap is starting to get pretty damn big. As we know in crypto, we talk about doing 10x's, 20x's, 30x's, whatever it might be. I'm not quite convinced that Solana has the 10x's left in the tank. 10x from here is going to put it at about $1,800, which is massive at the market cap. I don't know the math on that at the moment, but it would be pretty damn big. If Solana gets up to $1,800, Bitcoin's going to be a crazy figure. 300,000 or 400,000 or something like that. So I think it's starting to, whilst it's been a great buy, if you are in Solana, do you want to hold on to it and get maybe a 3x or 4x from here? Or do you think that you might need to start considering rolling this into another really good project that could do a 20x from where it currently sits? At the end of the day, we don't want to be married to our tokens. We're buying them at the end of the day to make money. Well, at least that's why I do it. And so if that means rolling capital around from one token into another, that's because I feel like the upside is tapping out and there's a lot more better risk reward elsewhere, I'd definitely be inclined to do that. And I have been doing that. I've been selling off a little bit of my Bitcoin to roll it into the alts. Just purely from liquidity perspective, Bitcoin, I think where it sits now, has maybe got a 3x left in it, if at best case scenario. Whereas there is some other alts that I think can run a lot more. For instance, NIA, probably, and this is very speculative, obviously. I think it could do about a 10x from its current price point. Sweat can probably do maybe about a 20-25x from its current price point. These are just ballpark speculation numbers. So, yeah, I'm looking to rotate some of my capital around. On that, we'll jump into Sweat. So I think everybody's going to remember this day back here, Friday the 8th. It's probably Thursday the 7th for some of you guys. It was a massive, massive pump. That's pretty much been fully retraced now. The big key for me here is to hold this level at 116, 115, around there, give or take. We don't want to see that get lost and falling back into the old range. We can form a new range above it and start trading from, level 115 up to wherever it wants to find a ceiling. At the moment, it probably looks like the ceiling would be around 1.5 cents. But yeah, what we don't want to see is this level loss. Bit of movement sideways is fine. Another accumulation period. It's like what we saw here. Let the volume drop off. Let it get boring again, and then we can start moving. But this is a good sign to say that, when the volume does pick up and start coming in, it can get going. It will start moving. So for Sweat, yeah, I'm happy with it. It's a shame that it hasn't held on to too much more of the gains, but shit happens. As long as it doesn't start falling back to old ranges, that should be good. We can draw a fib, and this is very rough because I haven't even looked to see that's a low point, but maybe I should. It's close enough, I think. It's not really respecting any of the fibs. Okay. So we've got the 786 level at 111, just over here. If we do break into this range, I'm going to want to see an explosive move off this 786 to get back out. It'd almost be a liquidity grab and boom, off we go. Definitely, yeah. I'll change my tune. I'm allowing a wick to this 786 level, but I don't want to see any lower than that. See what happens with Sweat. I think another one that we had was. So this isn't really one that I've been following too much. Keeping an eye on it, but that's about it. So it's been following Solana. Massive, massive curve here, straight up. Big stiffy. It's done a 4x from its lows, from 40 cents up to $1.60. I'd have to do maybe a little bit of research just to see what the market cap looks like and its tokenomics. However, a bit same sort of deal as Solana. It tried to get through $1.50, closed the day below, had another attempt, rejected, and now we're starting to see a bit of a correction. I think that this is just going to sort of tail what's happening with Solana. Given that it has had just a really big run up, this can probably fall quite a bit more at the same time. Yeah, it can come back down to this 88 cents level, probably even a bit lower. We did see some resistance in this zone here at around 80 cents. So we could come back down to test some of these old tops. And below that, we've got the 786, and then we've also got these old tops here that were resistance around 65 cents, which is a fair way down from where it is now. But it has had a really big run up, hasn't had time to build much of any structure. So it is a bit hard to do TA on something like Dupe at the moment. a bit like when Sui and Arb came out. Initially, it was a bit hard to do some TA on them, but now they've had some time to get some data behind it, so it's a bit easier these days. I'll just see what if there's been any comments made. Okay, so I got to do. I might do. We can do dot and MATIC still. So catching up on what's written in here. Solana volume leapfrogs Ethereum as meme coin frenzy seems seen sending. Yeah, the memes have typically well, when you see meme coins pumping historically, especially last cycle, that signaled the end of that little mini cycle that it's trading in, or the end of that sort of direction of the price action. So yeah, it's interesting how we saw Doge and Shib and all these other new memes that I've never even heard of before, just punching out some crazy numbers. And yeah, now we're seeing a bit of a correction. So maybe the same sort of tradition is being stuck to. This is financial advice, Baldrick. I'm joking. I'm definitely joking. We got Ondo and Ape. You're still on ApeCoin, Muji. Jesus. That's all right. All right. I'll do one of each. I'll do ApeCoin and we'll do MATIC. We'll jump into MATIC to begin with. So MATIC has finally had a bit of life come back into it. I'm really not keen on MATIC, to be honest. I think it's a bit overrated for this cycle. Like, it might have great tech and everything like that, but purely from a price perspective, I think it's got too high of a market cap. I think it's overvalued and sort of under delivered for what it is and what the competition is that's out there at a much more attractive price point. Um, it's MATIC has a higher market cap than a lot of layer ones that have got some pretty decent tech out there. I initially was keen to actually bag up some MATIC, but I wasn't happy to pay the prices that it sort of got to. I was more looking down at around the 30 to 20 cent level, but we never got there, so I never bought any. And I'm glad that I haven't, because it hasn't really done much of anything. It got down to 50 cents almost, and since then it's really only gotten up to $1.30 recently, or almost $1.30 at the 786 before having a decent pullback. And now it's not even sitting on a 2x from its lows. It's actually looking quite weak. I thought that it could have a bit of a rejection here at the $1.15 zone, which it did end up having initially. It tapped it, lost nearly 25%, and then it's sort of pushed through. But I feel that this is probably more just being dragged through or dragged up with the rest of the market, because now it's selling off fairly heavily. If it starts breaking below, and just ignore the fib, but if it starts breaking below these wicks over here that were previously support, it's going to start getting a little bit dire again for MATIC. We've got these old tops over here that were resistance that you would expect to have been flipped, but it's just not seeing much follow through at the moment. So for me, MATIC isn't looking great. Can it turn around? Yeah, it sure can. looking at a weekly chart, it did get down to 32 cents back in June 22. Got up to $3. It can probably get back up there later on in this cycle, but why would I get into something that's going to potentially do a 3x when that's sort of where I see Bitcoin? I'd prefer to just keep my money in Bitcoin. It's safer. I'm not liking MATIC at the moment. And let's look at APECOIN. Really, the only time I look at it is for you, Muji. I don't like it. It's actually quite similar to like MATIC. It's barely holding on to a 2x from its low. And given where it's come from, like it was at $30, nearly $28. I remember when it came out, it was crazy. I was trying to short the shit out of it, and I just kept getting stopped because it was just kept going up. But I knew the downside was there. But anyway, that's a past. We can't change that. We have seen a bit of a breakout though for ApeCoin. We are on a weekly chart here. I've seen a breakout, so maybe it's going to come back. Hopefully, it doesn't come back the whole way to test the breakout. It's just a rough trend line. Broke out, came up. Now we're rejecting. Yeah, it could probably come back down to $1.40. Wouldn't surprise me with Ape, to be honest. And can take off again. Looking at the prior structure, this would be good for. It's got a decent structure behind it to sort of work off where some resistance levels are going to be. Like $3 is going to be a decent level. Currently, it rejected off $2.60, which is the lows back here. And then we've got that $3.30 region would be another resistance zone. Then we start to get a little bit more fresh air, and with about $5, give or take. It's going to struggle, I think, if it gets up to that $6.50 range. It's got some decent resistance there, and then we've got $7.50 as well. Before we start getting a bit more fresh air, I'm unsure of what the market cap for ApeCoin looks like. It probably really relies on the NFTs associated with ApeCoin, I think, to get a bit of movement. And what do the team do? Do they do some sort of airdrop of some sort? I don't know. Honestly, don't know. From a perspective down here, there is probably a lot more upside than there is downside. Although whenever I see token unlocks, Ape always has a significant amount of tokens being unlocked for some reason, one way or another, and it has been suppressing the price, as we can see. So, yeah, good luck with that one, mate. So, ApeCoin is building their own chain using Arbitrum tech, and that's interesting. Is it going to be like a layer 1, or is it going to be like a layer 2 on layer 3 on Arb, I suppose? Yeah, no worries, Prof. I can have a look at Dot. Yeah, okay. I'm actually following a project that's already a layer 3 on Arbitrum. It seems to be going all right. Definitely has nowhere near the market cap of Ape. Yeah, that's right. The transaction fees significantly reduced. I'll just jump into Dot. So again, we're on the weekly chart still. Dot's not looking too bad. Made its low at around $3.50. So it is sitting almost at about 2.5x up from its low to get up to $12. The difference here, like it's only 2.5x up from its low, and when we looked at, for instance, APECOIN and can't remember the other one that we looked at, that was around a similar sort of MATIC and MATIC. Polkadot and MATIC are probably a little bit more similar than Ape, but it is a layer one. It does have a bit more, I guess, fundamentals and utility behind it. MATIC is a layer two. So I think for Polkadot, you can give it a little bit more leeway. It has had a bit of a nice accumulation period here, where it is breaking out on the weekly. There is a fair bit of upside. This actually looks like a better accumulation period when you look at it like this. Just sideways and boring before sort of breaking out a little bit. So I think initially for me, around that $13 level is what we need to see it start moving and breaking out of this level here at around $13.70. So its initial attempt at breaking out met resistance from these lows here. So we're going to have a bit of a pullback, but the next time we come up, we want to see another high. We want to see high highs continue to form to the upside. Where can it come pull back to? Let's chuck a fib on there and have a look. It probably does have a little bit more downside to go. Either or, the 618 or the 786, they both come into some nice structures. We've got the tops inside this dip for the 786, and the golden pocket is just also a nice little bell curve to go to. We can see what's previously happened as well. Yeah, so this one, and I'm only quickly drawing these, but on this run up here, it bounced off the 618 to go to the next level. So maybe we can see something similar, bounce off the 618, go to the next level, and start attacking this 50% level up here. I think Dot does have a fair bit of upside to it. The L1 space is fairly competitive though, and I think the parachains auctions really hurt Polkadot coming out of the bull market from the last cycle. Got up to $56, thereabouts, $55, and then retraced all the way down to $3.50. So that's a massive retrace. We saw that across the market. Everything retraced quite significantly, but that's really decent in my opinion. So yeah, I think Polkadot. It's a lot of the alts from the last cycle are in a similar position. We're all sort of breaking out slowly. We do have a few exceptions like Injective doing massive gains and holding on to it, sticking to it. Render is another one that's had some massive gains and is holding them. We are seeing ones like, for instance, RUNE. Where's RUNE? There it is. We did see some big gains from RUNE initially, and then decent pullbacks. It's very violent, RUNE. We see massive gains, massive pullbacks, massive gains, and then pullbacks again, like got up to $11.50, and it's came down to $7.30. So that's a decent pullback, and it's happening over very short periods of time. Highly volatile coin. I wish I could chucked up a different chart because it'll show how violent it was in the last cycle. But just due to how they're operating at RUNE, I'm not really interested in getting into it. I think I said that back here when it was sort of breaking out. It just has Luna vibes for me. You know, it may be a new world, a new way of trading and financial loans and things like that. But yeah, it's not for me. It's just smelt too much like Luna, so I'm happy to stay away. Um, did anyone have any questions or comments? What's your comment, Baldrick? Thanks, mate. Actually, that does remind me. I will just mention one thing about the land cycle. Something that I'm starting to notice a little bit more of here in Australia is that we're starting to see some liquidations of some smaller building groups happening and within the real estate industry. Um, Also starting to see, and this is probably more insider information more than anything, but I am starting to see delinquency rates on mortgages is slowly starting to pick up a little bit. So that sort of says that we're on track in regards to the land cycle, in at least in my mind. I'd probably like to get some more of that data from the states and see where they're at, given that they are the leaders of the cycle more or less. But yeah, certainly in my own backyard, that's what it's looking like here. I don't think it's a cause for concern now. I think that sort of liquidations and delinquencies need to increase over time before they start having big impacts on the big companies. Like in Australia, we've got what we call the big four banks. Um, they're the four. We've got four really large banks that pretty much run the whole country. To start seeing them get really nervous and sweaty palms, I think gonna I'm gonna have to see the delinquency rates increase quite a bit. Um, but yeah, we'll see what happens. Watch this space. Just thought I'd just drop a little bit of what I'm looking at here in Australia in regards to the land cycle and how that's progressing. Thoughts on FOMC meeting tomorrow? It's going to be hawkish, no doubt about it. Um, I actually thought it was today, to be honest. But yeah, when if the next financial crisis, I don't think it's a matter of if, Baldrick. It's a matter of when. Um, Big drop in interest rates. Probably, yeah. Does that mean it could also mean though interest rates still are going to be going up, and they might drop down to the current levels. So that sort of area is unknown. But yeah, when there's a big financial crisis, the governments try to do whatever they can to save the markets, and that will include dropping interest rates. But the problem is it's typically too late. It's too far gone. Yeah, the if's not required, mate. It's just when. There's always going to be a financial crisis at some point, whether it's in the next 18 months, like I think, or whether it's 10 years or 20 years. It's always got to have a reset. It's just like the charts, mate. Everything goes up and down. Everything has bear and bull markets, and that's just the bear and bull market of the land cycle, which has a massive impact on the rest of the economies. Yeah, financial system utopia. That's right. And then we wake up and it comes crashing down. But yeah. All right, guys. I think that's probably going to maybe draw us to a close. Yeah, we'll see what happens tomorrow. The FOMC meeting. I'm sure he's going to bring in some volatility. I actually thought it was today. That's why I had written that I thought that there was going to be fireworks. So yeah, maybe we'll see a bit more of a pullback tomorrow. Although it could go the other way. It could bounce because it depends on the narrative that you want to spin. Like the inflation data for the states was hot, so the assumption is going to be from the markets that the FOMC is going to be a hawkish stance. So if there's any glimpse that it's not, it could also get markets to run. But yeah, we'll just stay tuned, see what happens. A fire sale. That's it, mate. All right, see you, gents. Take it easy.